This tutorial I'm going to cover how to enter hardware for a hardware schedule. And to do that, you come into the door and hardware schedule form here. And this is after you've entered the job information and added your door tags and hardware sets. Now you do not have to do the door schedule form for a hardware schedule if that's all you're providing. But one thing it does provide you to do if you do have this enter the door schedule form is when you create a hardware schedule, this is what it'll look like. You can see it has the tag number, the quantity, single pair, what room to what room, the size. This is all in the heading of each hardware set. So you might want to go in and fill out those fields anyway, even if you're only supplying the hardware schedule or hardware for the project. If you're doing it doors and hardware, then of course you're going to have that information in there. So what we're going to do is go up to the Add Hardware Schedule button here, and it'll open up this form here. And when you click this drop down, select hardware set, you can see all the hardware sets that were entered on the previous form, Add Door Schedule Tags. So select the first hardware set, and when you do, you can see it pulls up the doors that are using that hardware set. This comes in handy because if let's say sometimes an architect will use the same hardware set for a single and a pair of doors. I don't see that too often, but I have seen it in the past. So in that case, you may want to go back to your door schedule, and let's say door number 1 was a single door and door number 2 was a pair of doors. What you could do is go to door number 2, and instead of hardware set 1, maybe make the hardware set for door 2 1A, and that way you can associate 1A to the hardware for door tag number 2, and you can put your hardware in for a pair of doors instead of a single. So those are just a couple options if you ever run into a situation like that. But again, this makes sure that maybe you accidentally entered a hardware set for a pair of doors when it should have been maybe a different hardware set. So just take a look at that real quick and make sure everything looks okay. So from here, what you can do is go ahead and you can start entering your hardware that's going to be used, that you're going to supply for this set. Now this particular set, it looks like it's a pair of aluminum doors. Maybe I don't supply aluminum, but I will be supplying maybe the the cylinder for the locks. So let's go in and we'll go ahead and enter, say, Yale for the vendor, and of course manufacturer. For this category, you can either hit the drop down and we're going to go ahead and we'll select locks. Actually, I'm sorry, we want to do cylinders, keys, and key. And now if you look in the drop-down list, we have all the cylinders that are in the system by Yale. And whatever cylinder it is that you're planning on supplying, go ahead and select it. You can see it pulls in the list price automatically, and the discount. And this pricing, again, that will be used for estimates, sales orders, or purchase orders. And of course the markup that's going to be used. Okay, so once you select your item, then you want to enter the quantity. And let's say for this one, it's going to be quantity of 1. Now what I can do is I can put a note in here, and this will show up on the schedule, that maybe a cylinder is the only thing I'm going to supply. I can type balance of hardware by door supplier. That way it's in my schedule that I'm not supplying the rest of the hardware, and maybe that's coming from the door supplier. Or if you are supplying all the hardware, you go ahead and start entering all the hardware. But I'm going to leave it like this. So I'm going to click Add Item. And you can see it shows up here in our schedule. Now if that's all I'm going to supply for that, I want to go ahead and save the hardware set. You can see when I saved it, it added that item to this list over here. And you'll see more about what happens with that. Okay, let's go to set number 2. This looks like a hollow metal door and frame, 3070. So let's start with let's see, we're going to do maybe Hager for hinges for a category. And now we have our hinges here. Let's say BB1279, 4.5, 4.5, 26D. Okay, so I've got my hinges selected. Now what it's doing, it's actually checking the most recent Toad price book to make sure the list price is current. And I'll put 3 of those. Add any notes that I want for that. And I'm going to click Add Item. And now we want to do a lock. Let's go back to Yale. Locks. Maybe let's say 4607 for the lock. Quantity of 1. Add it. Now maybe we have a closer. And let's say it's a 3501. I'm just grabbing things randomly here just to get through this, and we'll add that in. Now I'm going to go ahead and save this. Now you can see it saved all those items over here on the left. Now I'm going to go to hardware set number 3. Okay, hardware set number 3 was 3 doors, wood door and hollow metal. So the first thing I want to do are the hinges. Now let's say the hinges are the same that would be used in hardware set, or their BB1279s right here. Instead of going through all of this, I can just double click this item and it automatically loads it over here for me. So we got 3 of those. Click Add Item. Now we got a lock. Now maybe it's not a 4607, maybe it's a 4601. But I'm going to go ahead and click it. You can see it loads Yale and everything in here automatically. Then all I'm going to do is select the drop down and go up to a 4601. 626, I'm sure there's one here. There we go. And we'll take this one. Say 1. We'll add that. And there could be more door stops and everything else. But I'm going to go ahead and save it. And now you can see it only added the additional lock that was used. So you're building a list over here of all the different hardware items that are being used in the schedule. So to save you some time, all you have to do is double click on it. It will automatically load it here for you, put in the quantity, and add it to your hardware set. And just that's all there is to it. You can go through and do the entire hardware schedule like this and get all your items in. Now this area right here is, let's say I'm going to do hardware set number 4. Now 4 was almost identical, let's say, to hardware set number 2 with the closer, the hinges, and the lock, but maybe it's a 4608 closer, or a lock rather. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put 2 in here and just say copy this hardware set. So you can see it copied everything over here for me. Now the only thing that's different is, like I said, this door or this lock needs to be a 4608 or 4605, whatever it is. Or maybe there's an additional piece of hardware. It is the same, but I need to add something else. But if I want to change this, I just double click this line. It opens up, and then I go in here and I select the 4608. And I add that. So now we have a 4608. So I'm going to save the set. And now you can see it added a 4608. So that's how you go through and enter the hardware sets from your takeoff. So it's some quick and speedy additions here to help you get through it a lot quicker. And of course, if there's something you want to remove, let's say I want to change these hinges to something else, I could change it. Or if I want to take them out completely, you just double click it, that item, click remove, and it'll remove that from that hardware set. That's pretty much it. Everything else here is pretty straightforward. If you have any questions on this, give us a call. Thanks.